Priscilla thought she knew every corner of Elvis's world, until a single phone number showed up 47 times on a secret bill hidden behind his dressing mirror. And the moment she dialed it, someone answered who was never supposed to speak. What happened next changed everything they thought they understood about love, loyalty, and fame. It starts on a humid Memphis night, July 18, 1973. The air around Graceland feels thick, like the walls are holding their breath. Elvis has just come back from another Las Vegas run, the kind that leaves his voice tired and his eyes even more tired. The house that once shook with music now sits in a strange, heavy quiet. Priscilla walks in through the side door, the one the fans never see. She has been here 1,000 times, but tonight something feels off. On the kitchen counter, a peanut butter and banana sandwich sits untouched, the bread already going a little hard around the edges. A glass of milk has a thin skin on top. A small lamp in the living room is still on, even though nobody is there. Upstairs, the intercom hums with a low, empty buzz. In the hallway, a framed photo of Elvis and Lisa Marie catches the light. Priscilla pauses to look at it. She can hear faint footsteps somewhere above. Maybe Charlie Hodge moving around. Maybe Elvis pacing in his room again. Have you ever walked into a place you know by heart and suddenly felt like you were a stranger in it? She climbs the stairs slowly, her hand brushing the rail. Elvis has run his fingers along for years. The upstairs feels even quieter. No music from the record player. No laughter from the guys. Just the soft sound of the air conditioner and the distant rumble of cars outside the gate. Priscilla heads toward the dressing room, meaning only to drop off a folded sweater for Lisa Marie. The room smells like cologne, hairspray, and a faint hint of stage sweat that never quite washes out of the jumpsuits. Rhinestones on a white suit catch the hallway light, sparkling even in the stillness. As she walks past the tall dressing mirror, her shoulder bumps the frame. Something slips loose from behind it and flutters to the floor. The sound is small, just paper hitting carpet, but in the quiet room it might as well be a shout. She bends down and picks it up. It is a long telephone bill folded in half. Most of the numbers look normal, spread out over the page. But one number jumps out at her right away. It appears once, then again, then again. As her eyes move down the list, she starts counting. 1 call, 5 calls, 10, 20. Her stomach tightens. By the time she reaches the bottom of the page, the same number has appeared 47 times. Who needs to talk to Elvis that much in 1 month? And why has he never mentioned them, not even once? Her fingers press into the paper until it creases. The lamp beside the mirror seems too bright now. The room feels smaller, as if the walls are leaning in to listen. Outside, a car passes, its headlights sliding over the curtains and vanishing again. Priscilla walks closer to the window, holding the bill like evidence. She looks at the number again, slower this time. The first 3 digits make her heart give a strange, sharp jump. They belong to a Tennessee area code she knows very well. Her chest tightened. Priscilla recognized the area code, but not the name. Priscilla sat on the edge of Elvis's bed, the thick wooden frame creaking softly under her weight. The room smelled like aftershave and the faint trace of stage makeup. A lamp cast a warm circle of light across the sheets, making the long phone bill glow like something alive. Her hands trembled just a little as she held it. She had seen bills before, but not one hidden behind a mirror. Not one filled with a mystery number repeated so many times it looked like a warning. She smoothed the page, trying to calm her breathing. Vernon Presley always handled these things. Payments, invoices, anything that needed filing. So why was this one tucked away behind a dressing mirror like a secret someone didn't want found? Had Elvis hidden it? Or had someone slipped it there hoping it would stay lost? The number came from a small Tennessee town she barely remembered. Brownsville. A place Elvis had never talked about, not in casual stories, not in memories from the road. It wasn't a venue city. It wasn't connected to a tour. It wasn't linked to any of the Memphis Mafia either. What would pull him toward that place 47 times? What do you hold inside that you can't tell the people closest to you? Downstairs, she could hear Elvis's laugh, warm and rolling, drifting through the vents. Charlie Hodge said something that made Elvis laugh even louder. It was a strange thing. That voice she knew so well sounding perfectly normal while she sat upstairs holding the one piece of paper that didn't feel normal at all. Priscilla looked at the number again, tapping her thumb over the ink. She whispered the digits to herself until she had them memorized. She didn't want to leave the bill behind, but she didn't want to confront Elvis yet either. Not without answers. Not without something solid she could point to. She stood, her knees brushing the edge of the mattress. The floorboards gave a soft groan as she walked to the hallway. Elvis's old office was just down the corridor. A small room filled with papers, photos, and the heavy oak desk he loved. She closed the door behind her, the latch clicking quietly. The air felt cooler in here, like the room held different memories from the rest of the house. She picked up the phone. The plastic felt cold against her palm. She rested the bill beside it and stared at the number for a long second. Calling it felt like stepping into a part of Elvis's life she wasn't invited to. But if something was hurting him or threatening him, she needed to know. Her fingers hovered over the dial. She took one slow breath. Then she dialed. Each click of the rotary wheel echoed louder than it should have. When the last number spun back into place, silence filled the room. She pressed the receiver tight to her ear. 1 ring. 2 rings. Her chest tightened. 3 rings. The line clicked. A woman breathed in softly, like she had been expecting this call. Then she spoke Priscilla's name. The room felt like it tilted. Someone downstairs laughed again, unaware the world had just shifted. "Priscilla, I knew you'd call." The voice on the line was soft, almost floating. It didn't sound surprised. It didn't sound confused. It sounded ready. "Priscilla, I wondered when you'd find this." Priscilla froze. Her grip tightened around the phone until her knuckles went pale. How could a stranger know her name? And why did she say it like they had spoken before? The office around her suddenly felt smaller. The air too still, the shadows too long. The only sound was the faint hum of the desk lamp. She swallowed. "Who is this?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question that made Priscilla's heart kick. "He didn't tell you, did he?" The words were calm, but they carried weight. Heavy weight. A soft metallic click echoed through the line, like the woman had adjusted her phone. Then she continued speaking, her voice steady, almost rehearsed. "I know he's home tonight, back from Vegas. Long shows, long days." Priscilla's eyes widened. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't guessing. She knew details only people close to Elvis would know. Details the public didn't have. The world outside might have seen Elvis as larger than life, but this woman was speaking like she had been listening from the inside. "How do you know that?" Priscilla whispered. The woman ignored the question again. "He's tired. He hasn't been sleeping well. And tonight wasn't supposed to be the night you found the bill. But here we are." Priscilla's breath caught. "Tell me who you are," she said, firmer this time. But the woman exhaled softly, like she was choosing her words with care. "Let's just say I've been helping him. Quietly. In ways he couldn't explain to you without hurting you more." A chill ran down Priscilla's spine. Helping him? From Brownsville? 47 times? Was this a fan? A stalker? Someone from staff who had slipped through the cracks? Or someone much closer than Elvis had ever admitted? "What do you want from him?" Priscilla asked. Another soft inhale. "Nothing," the woman said. "I never asked him for anything. I never needed anything. I just listened." Listened. The word hung in the air. Listening meant late-night calls. Listening meant confessions. Listening meant pain. And sometimes, listening meant knowing things even a wife or an ex-wife didn't know. Priscilla felt her pulse in her throat. "Why did he call you?" she asked, voice trembling. The woman paused, the longest pause yet. Finally, she said, "Because he knew I'd answer." Something in that sentence cracked open inside Priscilla. She didn't know if it was fear or anger or something in between. Maybe all three. Then the woman's tone shifted. Softer. Almost sad. "He promised he'd tell you. He just never found the right moment." Priscilla opened her mouth to reply, but before she could speak, the line went dead. The click rang louder than it should have. And then a knock at the office door. The knock on the door wasn't loud. It was gentle, almost uncertain. But in the silence of the office, it felt like a drumbeat. Priscilla wiped her palms against her skirt, her mind racing through every possible explanation, every possible lie, every possible truth. The phone bill lay on the desk like something radioactive. The door opened just a crack. Elvis leaned in first, his silhouette framed by the hallway light. His hair was tousled, a little damp at the edges like he had just splashed water on his face. His eyes, usually warm and playful, looked tired in a way makeup couldn't hide. "Scylla?" His voice was soft. It always softened when he used that nickname. She didn't answer. She just stared at him. Elvis stepped inside slowly, as if he wasn't sure he was welcome. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving them alone in the small room. Then his eyes fell on the paper. He stopped breathing. Priscilla watched his face shift. First confusion, then recognition, then something deeper, something heavier. His hand lifted slightly, like he wanted to reach for the bill but was afraid of what touching it might mean. "Where'd you get that?" he whispered. "It fell," she said. "From behind your mirror." The words seemed to hit him harder than she expected. Elvis ran a hand through his hair and stepped closer. He wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He just looked defeated, like someone who had been carrying a weight alone for too long. "I didn't want you to find it that way," he said quietly. Priscilla held the bill up between them. "Elvis? Who is she?" The question hung in the air. Elvis sat down on the edge of the desk, shoulders slumped, fingers tapping against his knee. For a long moment he didn't speak. The only sound was the faint hum from the air vent, buzzing like tension under the surface. Finally, he let out a slow breath. "She's not what you think." Priscilla crossed her arms, her heart pounding. "Then tell me." Elvis rubbed his face and stared at the carpet, like the pattern might somehow help him explain. His voice was quiet, almost fragile. "Her name is Marion Keller." The name meant nothing to Priscilla, but the way he said it, soft, respectful, made her take a small step back. "She's a nurse," he added. "She works in Brownsville." "A nurse?" Priscilla repeated. "Why would you call a nurse 47 times? Elvis looked up. His eyes glistened under the lamplight. "Because she kept me from falling apart." The words were so unexpected, so raw, that Priscilla forgot how to breathe for a second. She had prepared herself for a lover, a fan, a secret assistant, something messy but predictable. Not this, not something that sounded like pain. "It wasn't romantic," he said quickly, almost pleading. "I swear to you, Scylla, it wasn't anything like that." Priscilla swallowed hard. She wasn't sure what she believed yet. Elvis stood and walked toward the window. The lights of Graceland's gates glowed faintly outside. His reflection looked hollow, like a ghost of the man the world cheered for. "I was in a bad place," he said. "Worse than you know. Worse than anyone knows." Priscilla felt her stomach drop. "She saved me once," he whispered, his voice cracking at the edges. "And I owed her more than I ever repaid." She stared at him, her pulse loud in her ears. Saved him? From what? From who? From himself? She stepped closer, but Elvis didn't turn around. "What do you mean, she saved you?" she asked. Elvis finally looked at her, and the truth waited behind his eyes. Elvis didn't speak at first. He just leaned both hands on the window frame, head bowed, chest rising and falling in slow, uneven breaths. Priscilla stood behind him, waiting, afraid to push him but afraid not to. The office felt colder now, as if the truth itself had lowered the temperature. Finally, he said, "It was Vegas. Late '72. November." His voice carried a weight she had never heard before. Priscilla stayed quiet. "Las Vegas Hilton," he continued. "November 14th, 1972. There were almost 20,000 people waiting that night. A sold-out crowd. Screaming. Flashing lights. The whole thing." He let out a hollow laugh. "Everyone thought I was fine. The guys thought I was just tired. Even Parker shrugged it off. Then his shoulders tightened. But I wasn't fine. I wasn't even close. Priscilla felt a chill run up her spine. She remembered that tour. She remembered the worry in the air, the canceled rehearsals, the whispers among staff. She never imagined it was this bad. Elvis kept talking, slowly, like each word cost something. Backstage, right before I was supposed to go on, everything just collapsed. He pressed a hand against his forehead. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The room felt like it was closing in, and I didn't want anyone to see it. Not the band. Not Parker. Not the fans. He swallowed hard. So I grabbed the nearest phone and asked the operator for a quiet line. I didn't even know where she connected me. He paused, eyes distant. It was Marion. Priscilla felt the name echo in her mind now with a new meaning. Less like a threat, more like a lifeline. Elvis continued, voice rough. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care who I was. She just heard a man drowning. The room went silent except for the faint buzz of the lamp. She talked to me for 30 minutes, he said. Just talked. No judgment. No pressure. Told me to breathe. Told me I didn't have to be Elvis Presley for a second. That it was okay to just be a person. He let out a shaky breath. Do you know what it feels like when someone doesn't want anything from you? Not fame. Not money. Not attention. Just to help. Priscilla didn't answer. Maybe because she wasn't sure. Maybe because she understood more than she wanted to admit. Elvis walked away from the window and sat down, elbows on his knees. I called that number again the next night, and the night after that. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. She helped me breathe when the world got too heavy. And that month, the world was heavy every single night. Priscilla could feel her heartbeat in her chest. She imagined Elvis, alone in a hotel room with the weight of a crowd pressing on him, reaching for a stranger instead of the people closest to him. Stung, but it also scared her. How close had he come to breaking? She asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked up at her. "Because I didn't want you to know how close I was to disappearing." The words hit like a punch. Disappearing. Not leaving. Not quitting. Something darker. Priscilla's breath hitched. Why keep her hidden? Priscilla didn't sit down. She couldn't. The room felt too charged. Like the air was buzzing with things Elvis had kept buried for far too long. He sat in front of her, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like it held a map of every mistake he'd ever made. "Elvis," she said softly, "why didn't you tell me about Marion? If she helped you, if she kept you standing, why hide her?" He rubbed his hands together slowly, like he was trying to warm them. "Because of how it would look," he said. "To the world, to Parker, to the guys, even to you." Priscilla blinked. "Look like what?" "Like I couldn't handle my own life," he whispered. He leaned back, eyes drifting toward the framed gold records on the wall. The light from the lamp reflected off them, making them glow like small suns. Bright, blinding, heavy. "The tabloids would have ripped it apart," he said. "Parker would have said I was weak. The fans would have said I was slipping." He shook his head. "Even the guys. They wouldn't understand why I'd rather talk to a stranger than them." Priscilla stepped closer. "But I would have understood. Why didn't you come to me?" His jaw tightened. "That's the part that scared me most." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Elvis looked up at her now, eyes raw, stripped of any stage shine. "I didn't want you to see me like that. Broken. Small. Scared." The words were simple, but they hit with the weight of everything he had carried alone. "I still cared about you," he said quietly. "More than I knew how to say. And I didn't want you thinking I'd fallen so far that I couldn't get back up." Priscilla's chest tightened. "Elvis, everyone falls." He gave a small, sad smile. "Not me. Not in the world's eyes. I wasn't allowed to." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Honest. Then he continued, voice low. "Marion didn't know Elvis Presley. She knew a tired man breathing into a phone. She didn't expect anything from me. Didn't judge me. Didn't tell me to pull myself together because I had a show in 20 minutes. So she was a safe place," Priscilla said. Elvis nodded. "A lifeline. And I was scared that if I told you, you'd think she mattered more than you." But she didn't. She just filled a space I didn't know how to bring to anyone else. Priscilla looked at him for a long moment. She felt anger. She felt hurt. But somewhere under both, she felt something unexpected. Understanding. Have you ever been so close to someone, yet missed the signs they were breaking on the inside? Have you ever realized too late that love isn't the same thing as noticing? Elvis wiped his palms on his pants and met her eyes. I hid her because I didn't want to lose you too, he said. That's the truth. Priscilla inhaled slowly. Something inside her shifted. Something she never expected. A decision was forming. Priscilla didn't speak right away. Elvis waited, eyes searching her face, unsure which direction her heart would pull. But she didn't fight. She didn't shout. Instead, she stepped past him, walked to the desk, and picked up the phone bill again. The paper felt softer now from all the handling, like it had absorbed the weight of every truth spoken in this room. Elvis, she said quietly, I need a minute, alone. He didn't argue. He didn't try to follow. He simply nodded, stepped outside, and closed the door behind him with the softest click. The moment the latch settled, Priscilla exhaled. The office felt different now. Less like a room full of secrets and more like a room full of choices. She stared at the bill again, at the number, at the name Elvis had spoken with such heavy gratitude. Marion Keller, a complete stranger. Yet a stranger who somehow knew things about Elvis no one else did. What would you do if someone outside your story carried a piece of the person you once loved? Would it frighten you? Or would you want to understand why? Priscilla lifted the receiver. Her finger hovered over the dial only a moment. Then she began pressing the numbers, steady and calm. This time she wanted answers for herself, not to accuse but to understand. The ringing sounded softer than before. Maybe because she was breathing differently. Maybe because she already knew the voice that would answer. 1 ring. 2. On the 3rd ring, the line clicked. Priscilla, Marion said gently, as if she had been waiting. This time, Priscilla's voice didn't shake. I want to know what you were to him. There was no hesitation. No defensiveness. Marion spoke with the kind of honesty that comes from someone who has nothing to gain. I wasn't anything he owed, she said. I wasn't part of his life. I was just someone on the other end of a phone who didn't want him to fall apart when no one else could see he was slipping. The simplicity of it hit harder than anything else could have. Why didn't you ever come forward? Priscilla asked. Because the world didn't need another rumor, Marion replied. And Elvis didn't need another person claiming a piece of him. I just needed him to stay alive. Priscilla closed her eyes. 2 women, 1 man, 2 different kinds of love. No competition, just truth. Thank you, Priscilla whispered, for being there when he needed someone. Marion hesitated, then said, He made me a promise once, and he never had the chance to fulfill it. Priscilla's eyes slowly opened. What promise? Would you like me to continue to the next chapter? Marion didn't rush her answer. The line stayed quiet for a moment, and Priscilla could hear her breathing softly, like she was choosing words she'd kept hidden for years. He promised he'd visit the crisis center, Marion finally said. Not as Elvis, not as a star, just as a man who understood what it meant to need a voice in the dark. Priscilla pictured it. Elvis slipping into a small building in Brownsville under a different name, maybe wearing one of his simple jackets, offering to help the place that had held him together. But that visit never happened. Tours, pressure, exhaustion. Life had moved too fast. He wanted to support us, Marion continued, to make sure other people didn't fall through the cracks the way he almost did. But he never came, and I never blamed him. Priscilla felt something shift deep inside her. Not anger, not jealousy, something more like clarity. A truth she hadn't expected. This wasn't a story about betrayal. It was a story about survival. Elvis should still fulfill that promise, Priscilla said softly. The words surprised even her. Before Marion could respond, Priscilla thanked her again and gently hung up. She opened the office door, and Elvis was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall like he'd been holding his breath. You okay? He asked. She nodded. But there's something we need to do. His eyebrows rose, unsure but listening. We're going to Brownsville, she said. Together, quietly, for the promise you didn't get to keep. Elvis stared at her, stunned. Then something warm, something relieved, filled his eyes. That December, under a soft gray sky, they went. No entourage, no cameras, no noise. Elvis signed Aaron on the visitor sheet and slipped a handwritten note and a check into the donation box. For the voices who listen when no one else can. Years later, that note would be framed on the wall. When Elvis passed, the world mourned the legend. Crowds gathered outside Graceland, singing softly, holding candles, clutching photos and ticket stubs. But in Brownsville, far from the headlines and television cameras, a smaller crowd gathered inside a quiet crisis center with flickering fluorescent lights. One of the volunteers, an older woman with kind eyes, opened a drawer the week after the news broke. Inside lay the note Elvis had written months earlier, the one signed Aaron. She held it for a long time, tracing the handwriting with her thumb. She knew then that it needed to be preserved, not because it belonged to a famous man, but because it belonged to someone who had survived long enough to make it. A decision was made. A small brass plaque was mounted beside the front desk. The engraving was simple. In honor of the caller who stayed alive because someone listened, 1972. Visitors who didn't know the story would read it and pause, sensing something sacred behind the words. Volunteers would sometimes smile and say, that one's special. They never said his name. They never needed to. Over the years, rumors spread. Fans whispered about a mysterious Brownsville woman who talked Elvis back from the edge during his darkest nights. Some thought it was a myth, a soft legend created by people who needed to believe their hero had been human. Others claimed they'd heard a bootleg tape from the Hilton rehearsal era, where Elvis thanked someone who kept me breathing when the world got too loud. But only Priscilla knew the full truth. And only she knew the weight of that phone bill she had found by accident, the one with the same number written 47 times. She kept it locked in a drawer, not as evidence, but as a reminder. In the quiet years that followed, Priscilla often thought about that night in Graceland. The soft thud of the bill falling from the mirror, the trembling numbers, the voice on the phone that shouldn't have known her name. She had walked into that mystery expecting betrayal. But what she found was far more human. That number wasn't tied to scandal. It wasn't tied to a secret affair. It was tied to a man the world admired but rarely truly saw. A man who stood on stages in front of 20,000 people, yet sometimes felt alone in a way no spotlight could fix. She realized something she wished she had understood sooner. Even the strongest people carry shadows no one else can see. And even kings need lifelines. Sometimes that lifeline comes from the person you love. Sometimes it comes from a stranger who listens at the exact moment you're about to fall. And sometimes it comes from a promise you return to long after the world has moved on. Priscilla kept the bill. Not to revisit pain, but to remember the truth behind it, that a single phone number saved Elvis in the months when he needed saving most. If the story moved you, share it with someone who might need a reminder that even the strongest people carry battles no one else sees. And tell us in the comments, were you surprised by the truth behind the number? Your voice keeps these forgotten legends alive, and there's another story waiting for you next.